Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, thank each and every one of you for being here. My name is Dennis Tedrow. I am the chairman for the Dubois County Democratic Party. But to stress, this is not a Democratic Party event. This is just a town hall for everybody. We're just the ones who are hosting it and moderating it. And I say moderating, but I mean it partly because I am going to be handing the microphone over to Jason McCoy, who is most certainly not a Democrat. In fact, the exact opposite, a very, very proud Republican. But important couple things tonight. There's no podium. The microphone's going to come to you tonight. So if you have a question, please just raise your hand and we will come to you with a microphone. Also, very important to note, there is no such thing as a dumb question tonight. I promise you that if you are thinking of something and you want to ask that question, you are not the only person in the room thinking that same thing. So tonight is all about asking questions, getting to know about the topics that we've got on hand. And with that, are you ready? And with that, I am going to pass the microphone over to Mr. Jason McCoy.
Thank you, Dennis. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, nation, indivisible. Thank you. We have Perry Uebelhor with us here this evening, and Perry has just come out of surgery. And I was hoping that he would be able to make it to give an opening prayer for us this evening, and he's here. So thank you for braving whatever you had to brave to get here.
Lord's treated me well after this surgery, so grateful for that. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing everyone to this gathering tonight. Lord, we are truly grateful for all who are stepping out in faith to help stop this unwanted corridor. We ask for your blessings as many continue to attend local government meetings, participate in parades, and have decided to step forward and run for political offices. Help us to adhere to your word in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, which speaks, "Do not get tired of doing good. At the right time, you will harvest a crop if you do not give up." Lord, as we petition you to help us in these matters affecting our community, help us to show grateful obedience to the desires you have for us to always grow in knowledge of what your word leads us to do in our personal, communal, and spiritual lives. Lord, guide us now in this meeting as we move forward in stewardship for our community. It's in the powerful name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Perry. So I'd like to thank Dennis Tedrow and the Dubois County Democrat Party for hosting this. I'd like to thank the panelists for agreeing to sit in and answer questions. The room's packed. I'm sure there's gonna be quite a few of those for you guys. Also, thanks to the crowd, these things don't work if nobody shows up, right? So I'm very encouraged to see everyone here. I'd also like to thank the Hanselman family. Alan back there, look at him, he's toiling away for our benefit. Alan, thank you very much. So Dennis is right. So my name is Jason McCoy. He's right about that. I am a right-wing conservative Republican. I voted straight Republican ticket since Reagan in '84, my senior year in high school, until a couple of years ago. For those potential missionaries, Democrat missionaries out there, I have no intention of changing my party. So don't waste your time. But in the last couple of years, I've learned some things from people like Teresa Kendall here during our fight to be properly represented. I've learned some things that it's not good for me to think that I have to vote one way or the other. when you're working towards something and you're relying on your people, whether those people be red or those people be blue, and things aren't working out, nobody's ever going to do everything exactly the way you want them done. But fundamentally, if you feel like you're not being represented, if you feel like you're not being listened to, if you feel like you're not being heard, and that becomes a long-term fundamental problem, then doers start looking for solutions, right? One of the things Teresa said was, and I've heard Brad Hochsang say this too, probably if you cut through everything, we probably all agree on about 95% of things. So if we agree on 95% of things, why so divisive? It was hearing that from people like that, people that I trust, people that I don't consider zealots, people that are smarter than me. You've all heard me say, there's a saying my kids like to say, they didn't coin it, but they like to say it. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. At that time, when I heard my kids say that, I thought, I need to be in different rooms. I need to get in rooms where I'm not the smartest guy. And so this has been a very fitting room for me to be in for that reason. So, Teresa, I'll just go ahead and say hats off to you for bringing me over just a little bit. Brad also. When I go to these meetings, and I've been to some of these meetings about the Mid-States Corridor and recently about BEST, anything that has to do with governance, what I want more than anything else is I want to be represented, right? I learned that I kind of had an odd outlook on the job of our elected officials. I felt like, I've always felt like, these people come and ask us, right, if we're willing to let them do the job, and we consider whether or not we're going to allow them to do this job that they're asking for. In many cases, spending a lot of money to get elected, and we oblige them. And the backside of that now is that backside of that contract, which is what I consider it to be, is now you must represent us. Not a few of us, not just a couple of us, but the majority of your constituents, right, need to be represented. And in going through this process, it draws my ire just a little bit to learn that any elected official, but really especially my people, right? For me to feel like my Republican elected officials aren't even listening to me, they don't even hear what I have to say. That's not okay with me. And so that's the impetus behind me supporting people like, I'll say it, Jennifer McCormick, who ran against Braun for the governor's race. My guy was Eric Doden. When he didn't make the cut, straight to Jennifer McCormick I went, because I didn't feel as though my local guy here was listening to me. That was a big jump for me, right? Took me a lot of time to consider whether or not that was the right thing to do. I spent a lot of time on the phone with that lady, a lot. But it was the right thing to do, right? To pay attention to somebody else. You know, I've done the same thing with Tiffanie Arthur and with Brad Hochsang. I've spent some time with Daniel Krylon. I've spent some time. Mary Allen's probably getting tired of hearing me call. Hey, what about this? What's your view on this? Hey, you know, when I was talking to you, I forgot to ask you about this. I need to make sure that we're on the same page on this. In the end, it's the accessibility, right? It's the access that I have to people, that we all have to people. I can't get a straight answer out of my friend Mark Messler. I can't. I don't feel like I've ever gotten a straight answer out of, I'll say it, Amy Kippenbrock. I don't feel as though I've gotten a straight answer out of Daryl Schmidt. And I can't seem to get Mike Braun on the phone. I'm not okay with these things, right? You people work for us, right? I hate to say it like a 5-year-old, but we are the boss of you. We need access to you. I was at a BEST meeting last week, and I met a gal there who had a binder 2 feet tall. I'm exaggerating, But one of the comments I made at that BEST meeting was directly to the commissioners, please, you guys, do not make decisions anymore. Don't ever make a decision again as our elected representatives that affects all of us without considering all of us. If you don't have the time to put into figuring out whether a data center is what's best, or battery storage is what's best, or 4-lane interstate running for 54 miles at our expense is best. If you don't have time to dig into it, quit. Give the job to somebody else. Give the job to somebody that's willing to put that 2-foot tall binder together. Somebody who's actually willing to do the work. So representation is what I'm all about. And I'm to the point now, I don't care if it's red or blue. I want to be represented. So I won't go on any more about that. That's where I stand on things. But that's just where I stand on things. I'm curious where you guys stand on things. I want to know where you all stand on these same issues. How do you guys feel about it? So tonight's the night for that, and we're going to be asking you about that. One thing we need to say is that we have 2 elected officials up here. We have Alex Hohl and we have Doug Uebelhor. They are not endorsing these. They're not here to endorse these 2 candidates. That's not why they're here. Okay. That's not, they didn't sign on for that. Okay. Didn't really have that discussion with them. But there are current county councilman. Doug Uebelhor is your, county commissioner-elect that you guys voted for, yeah, please. Would you guys just mind quickly just introducing yourself? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, hello everyone. Is that good?
Yeah.
Good. I'm Alex Hohl. I'm in the southern part of the county in Cass Township. I live in the St. Henry community. I farm. We've been at the same farm for 175 years. And I represent County Council District 4, which is Patoka, Cass, and Bainbridge 1, which is kind of in the rural King area. So good to see everyone tonight and happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Holsang, you may as well go next.
My name is Brad Hoaxang. I was just introduced. Thank you, Jason. I am running for State Senate in District 48, which includes Dubois County, Perry County, Spencer County, Gibson County, Pike County, and Crawford County. So it's quite a big area. And there's a lot of different varied people there. And we're going everywhere to try to figure out what you guys want and see what your opinions are on things that are going on today.
My name is Doug Uebelhor. I live in Jasper on the county council at large. So I represent everybody in the county. Not necessarily elected general election yet, but no one's running against me. So
Thank you. You should be a student. Don't give him loyal to any scandal, anything scandalous, okay, between now and then, please.
I'll try to.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you.
I am a school teacher. I work over at Washington High School.
Tiffanie.
My name is Tiffanie Arthur, and I am a candidate for State House District 63, which is about half of Dubois County, almost all of Davies, all of Martin, and a small part of Pike County. I run a small business. My husband farms with his brother and his cousin, and now the I believe 4th generation. We raised our family there. So I am running because honestly, sitting back and watching a lot of what's been happening in District 63 has made me go, we have stopped listening. Our elected officials have stopped listening to us. The same kind of thing. You can't get an answer. Our state senator in my district lives in my hometown and will now cross the street when he sees me coming. So I thought that it was time really to put somebody back in the office, have somebody run who wants to actually listen to people and do what's best for the people in their area. And that's what I hope to do. I've spent a lot of time traveling around District 63. This is my third event today, listening to people, the people that are living closest to the situations, because I feel like they really have the best answers and solutions to the problem. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other people in the audience that are currently running for a position in public office? And if so, would you like to stand and would you like to introduce yourself and just briefly say who you are and what you're running for? I'll come back here at the back since he spoke first.
Hi, I'm Daniel Fryline. I'm running for Dubois County Council District 2. I've been a lifelong resident of Jasper for at least the last 34 years. I'm adamantly against the mid-state corridor. I'm all about representation. I want you guys to put me to work. I will listen to you guys. I'm tired of my city council, county council. I just sit through the meetings and they just, fall through with everything and they don't listen to the constituents, and I want to be the change.
Thank you for that. I'm going to come back to that mid-state corridor thing. That's twice tonight so far that's been mentioned. And this isn't what this meeting is about. That's not the only issue that this meeting is about. I'm going to speak to that just a little bit, sir.
Mike Solomon, I currently sit in the District 2 seat. Stock stand beginning of the year. Re-election as well. Lifelong resident of Jasper, retired Jasper police officer. Just here to listen.
Real quick, people, when you speak with the mic, you got to kind of put it on your chin, otherwise it's hard to hear.
Yeah. Is anybody having a hard time hearing me? That's because I'm an old crooner from way back and I understand my mic. I might just bust out a song if you're not careful. Anybody else running for public office? Ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mary Allen. I'm running to be your next U.S. representative in District 8. District 8 is about 21 counties down in Vanderburgh, up past around Vermilion, Fountain County area. I live in Evansville. I'm currently the vice president of city council there as an at-large member, and just really proud to be here and participate how I can and support these folks. So, and here to listen. Thank you.
We say the best for last, and that's Mr. Mann over here, always. Being facetious, of course. Oh, I'm sorry, two of us, ma'am.
I'm Nancy Hall, and I am running for Ferdinand Township trustee. And I am running because I have been a helper all my life. And I think there's a lot of people that don't really know what a trustee does. And part of my goal is to help people understand what the trustee role is and the help that is available when they need it. And so I want to be a help to my community, and that's why I'm running.
I'm Adam Mann. I live up in Boone Township, the northwest corner of Dubois County, on the family farm, what's left of it, family inheritance. I'm running for county recorder. As far as like my opinion on the Mid-States corridor, I'm against the Mid-States corridor because it's reckless and not exactly functioning the way it was told to be functioned. I want stuff to work right, not be just planted wherever and pray it works. I want things to function properly, and as county recorder, I want to make sure the recorder's office functions and serves Dubois County.
Again, we brought up the Mid-States corridor a couple of times, but there's a lot more that we're going to talk about than just that. There's a lot more things going on. Well, since we have brought that up, though, On the Mid-States Corridor and things like the RDA, the Regional Development Authority, which is kind of the body that had to be created first in order for the Mid-States Corridor to get legs under it. I've always kind of been curious, and I've always kind of wondered, and I'm going to ask this of you, Doug, as an elected official, and you too, Alex. How do things like this, from a mechanical point of view, how do things like this come about? What's the process, Doug? If I could start with you, what's the process? Let's take the RDA, for example. A lot of people think that the RDA are the people that sit on the board of directors of the RDA, right? That's not what the RDA is. The RDA is made up of our county commissioners, our county council, our city council, and in this case, this RDA had to have 2 counties involved, so just double that. The other county that's involved for the Mid-States Corridor, of course, is Spencer County. So can you help us understand when did that first come across did that come across your guys' desk? And did you guys have to vote to adopt that or to be part of that? Can you help us understand how that happens?
So 2018, we created a board to represent us to go to for what to see. Originally, we were state border was going to be an expansion or a 231. So that was what was originally the idea. So created this committee, and they kind of were our representation, our go-between between us and Mike and to facilitate that.
Okay, thanks. I think what I'm trying to get my brain around is like, what was the first call? What was the first meeting? How did the idea of an RDA, just for reference, in 2017, House Enrollment Act 127, written by Mike Braun and Mark Messmer, allowed for the creation of an RDA. That was the first thing that had to happen. That flew under the radar. I wasn't paying attention to that. I don't know. Did anybody else have their finger on the pulse of that back in 2017? Okay, a couple of you did. Okay. I didn't. I was asleep at the wheel. But they passed that law, which allowed for the creation of an RDA. What happened then? Do you remember? Do you know what happened? I know it's 2017. You may not have even been involved then, were you?
I was just getting on the council.
Okay.
So
do you remember how that was brought to you, I guess? Because that's what I'm going to lead into. How did things get brought to the commissioner? How did things get brought to the council? That's ultimately going to be my question.
With this specifically, I don't know exactly how it was. I can't remember exactly how it was brought to us, but it was presented as, well, like I said, it was presented to us to form this RDA to kind of work and explore process to get identifying the problem of ingestion and all that.
Okay, thank you for that. So right now, Alex, if you wouldn't mind taking this as a current councilman, pick any issue at all that you know affects the majority of voters in Dubois County. How do things come to the council? How do they get on the agenda? Who creates the agenda? Can you help us? And this is not a rhetorical question for me. I'm a really, really good bricklayer. I don't really understand this, though. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's different avenues. The commissioners may create a position, and then being on the county council, we're going to have to fund it. So that's pretty straightforward. Sandy Morton, who's in the audience, she creates the meeting minutes. If a public or resident constituent has a concern, they can call into the auditor's office or the courthouse, and they can be per our rules, Dubois County allotted a 15-minute section to speak of something. If you come to a meeting without previously calling Sandy, it'd be about 3 minutes. But as far as these bigger issues, like you're talking, the RDA preceded me. I don't know how it was presented or first brought forth to the council because I wasn't there, but I did watch the bill you said went through the Indiana House. And I wasn't really happy because I look at those things holistically, RDAs, whether it's a road or even a library. Sometimes when you commingle public and private funds, there can be some nefarious things happen. I'm not saying always, and a lot of times those collaborations are good, but I'm a skeptic of them. But as far as also the stuff coming to the council, you have a president of the council. Mike Leisner is the president of Dubois County Council, so he's a good communicator. He's going to send emails. He's going to call us individually. He says, hey, we got a wage study. This third-party firm wants to potentially be hired to conduct it. What are you guys' thoughts? Do you know anybody else? There's endless examples, but again, the council is typically just the financial side. So the commissioners, being the executive body, see things well before we do typically because they make the decisions, and the council will decide if we fund it. An example would be the solar parks in the county. I have never seen the permits or the easements until I know that it was on an agenda item on a meeting, just because I really have no decision in that outcome on whether those are approved.
Is that a county commissioner thing then, probably?
Yeah, the signing of approval of work permits and stuff and road use agreements are going to be the executive branch of the county commissioners.
That was very helpful. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Brad, did you have something to mention?
Can you explain how something actually gets on the agenda? I think that would be interesting for people to hear.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's multiple ways. If Brad Hoaxang wants to come and release the results of a poll he conducted in the county, as far as I know, he's going to call Sandra Morton. We do have an open door law in the state of Indiana. We cannot have the majority of a governing body meet without a prior notice, which would be 4. We could not have 4 county council members come and make any decisions or talk anything that's going to happen without public notice. But again, if you look at the county commissioner or council agendas, most of it's very bland, mundane things like budgeting and road use agreements. So I don't know specifically how to answer that in one sentence, but there's just so many ways that something can come on the agenda. But maybe somebody else can speak to that a little better than me.
I thank you so much for that clarification. Doug, you got your mic up.
Yeah, basically, an individual or a group wants to come and present to either the commissioners or the council. They have an issue that they want to bring up. They have some sort of topic they want to talk about or discuss. So, like Alex said, they'll go to the auditor, who's kind of the commissioner and council secretary, and get on the agenda. Talk with her. That's basically the process to be on the agenda. Now you can also, there's also a time where the public can come in and speak for 5 minutes at the end of the meeting. So that's another secondary type of way to present your ideas or your concerns and talk to them.
Can you put items on the agenda yourself?
Yeah, I'm a citizen. I can do that. Anybody can do that. Yeah. Whether it's a group, a person, anybody at all could come in if they have something they want to talk about to the commissioners or council or any group really can come in and just have their 15 minutes, or if they need more time, they can discuss that with the auditor. And but usually it's at 15-minute increments. We try to keep things going.
Sure. There's a lot of business that has to be conducted, right? And you say that the person to contact there would be our auditor, Sandy Morton. And I see Sandy in these meetings, every commissioners or every council meeting that I've been into, she's been sitting there taking
She
notes.
takes the minutes and stuff.
Yes,
So we
okay.
approve the minutes in the next.
Okay, good. All right, thank you for clarifying that. I actually personally and professionally have some experience with that because there's times when I feel like I have something to say. And I've called Sandy and I've said, hey, can I get on the agenda? I have something to say. And most of the time she's has accommodated me. I think Mike maybe has a lot to do with Mike Kleesner has, as the president, may have a lot to do with setting that agenda. And so sometimes things have to kind of be run by him, and that's probably proper. So before I move on to the next question, I know that there's got to be somebody out here who has a question or comment about this specific thing. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute and try to sneak through here and see if somebody will raise their hand with a question. There you go.
All right, so as potentially elected officials, and also those of you that are in office, one of the things that I think a lot of constituents have a concern about is how something becomes, some type of issue or project gets funded or gets changed when nobody even knew anything about it. So aside from the road, let's go to something that I know about, public education. Public education. I can't think of anybody, any person back in the early 2000s that said, hey, we need to reduce the public school budget and give it to people who are going to private schools that have never been to a public school before. Nobody thought about that. Nobody went to the state legislature and said that we want to do that. So as people who are in office, going to be in office, and most likely will get voted into office, for example, Tiffany or Brad, how would you approach an issue that comes up in the state legislature where there's been nothing except for the Legislative Exchange Council that comes up with this BS? How would you stand up to that? What would you do to try to make it more constituent centered rather than national policy centered? Which is, I know that may sound like a little silly, but that's basically what happens in state legislature. We could say that we all want a giant dome built over Dubois County. Everybody was for it. We all voted for it. We said you can raise our taxes for it. And somebody else says, well, we're just not going to do that because you want it. We're not going to do it at all. And that's kind of how public politics works. And I think that's why the majority of us are really, in a twist over how our politicians have been acting. I've talked too much, so Tiffany or Brad, please.
Do you understand the question? Okay.
So I think the question basically is, you pointed out a specific example, but when some issue comes up for a vote, what do? There's a lot of different opinions. And I think one way that people have thought about this in the past is that you elect someone because of how you believe they will behave on a particular set of issues. That's one way that you can choose your candidates. Another way, and maybe this is a little bit less common today, is that it's the job of the elected representative to find out what it is that his or her constituents want. And the problem with that is that's very difficult. It's very hard to find out, and it can be very expensive to find out what people want. So it really takes a network, and it takes finding the most effective people by any particular issue. And a lot of issues, just like Alex and Doug here said, are very mundane. They're not necessarily anything that people are going to care a whole lot about or know a whole lot about. But some decisions have lots and lots of impact. So when it reaches a particular level and it becomes interesting to people, I think that you seek them out and figure out what their opinions are. Like the people who may have maybe sending their kids to private or public schools, because they're going to be most affected by that bill.
So Like stated earlier, I think that the best ideas and best solutions to a problem come from the people that are living closest to it. Public education policy, for example, like you mentioned, a lot of that's being made without input from actual educators. And I think that there are a lot of things that are done with the best of intentions and not a whole lot of forethought for the future. You know, I don't think that when our voucher program was put in place, I don't think anyone was thinking, you know, we're going to make this a universal program. And I think that there are a lot of decisions that are being made right now that have a lot of unintended consequences that we're going to have to deal with, our kids and our grandkids are going to have to deal with down the road. So hearing from constituents when in office, that's the number one. You know, giving responses, actually sitting down. What a novel concept right here of a town hall where people can come for free and actually talk to you and have these conversations, not just send a staffer, not just, you know, send out a flyer when it's election time, but actually sitting down and talking to people. And I think that that is the number one thing. And I think that the transparency has been lost in the last couple of years. And I think that that's number one. I tried to stay very clearly on my social media where I stand on things because I think that voters and constituents have the right to know that. So I think that communicating where that is and having those conversations is the number one place to start and giving it a universal view of what could happen.
And you guys deal with this on just a more local scale. I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Local politics are the best. I don't know if I'm ever going to shoot for Brad and Tiffany because I know literally almost every one of my constituents, and I operate as a delegate for my constituents. Unless it's something I haven't had any input in, then I use my own discretion. But when 80% of the people tell me something, that's what I do. It's very simple. And I know them all. If I piss them off, they're going to see me at church. They're going to see me at the Bungalow Bar or Holland Leaf, and they're going to rip me. So it's very easy. Local politics are the best. And the more local the decision, the better you are. Thank you. Thank you. Doug?
Exactly. I agree with you, Alex, on that. There's no way you could ever get me for state rep, state senate, anything higher than county commissioner. And I think county commissioners, we represent pretty much everybody, even though we're supposed to live in a certain district. Everybody votes for us. So we represent everybody in the county. And I think that's hard enough in itself to make yourself available to everybody in the county. I love going to picnics and festivals and everything, and just being out in the community and seeing the individuals and talking one-on-one to see where they're at on different issues or what they're thinking about different things or what they want, any new things that they have in mind. Just being available. And I think that being accessible to the public is big. It's huge. And if we're not accessible, then we're not really understanding what the needs are, because you guys can't come and discuss with us what you want as easily as you should.
Yeah, thank you for that, Doug. Thank you. I've mentioned this to these four people up here individually. You'll each remember me saying this properly, I hope. I have a great deal of respect. We've got 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats up here. And I have a great deal of respect and admiration, faith, and trust in all 4 of them. But I've made the statement, at some point in time, we're going to be on opposite ends, on opposite sides of an issue, right? We're not going to agree on everything. You're going to do something, or you're going to take a position on some issue that I don't like, that I don't appreciate, right? But I already know going into it that I'm going to find a way to be okay with that. And I don't even know what that issue is, what that issue could be. What that says about that philosophy to me is that I already feel comfortable being represented by these people up here. 2 of them aren't even elected yet, but I know right? That I'm going to have access to them when they do get elected. I know that I may come across and say something crazy. Hey, I want this and I think it's in the best interest of everyone. And they might say, are you crazy? I'm not doing that. And in the end, through substantive dialogue, I'm going to be able to dismount that situation. I may win the day, I may lose the day. If I lose the day, I already know that I'll be able to live with it. I'll tell you a good example. I don't want to, I'm not sure, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I've been before Judge Verkamp 6 times, and he has ruled against me 3 times, and he has ruled in my favor 3 times. And he's been right all 6 times. Now think about what that means. A judge has an enormous amount of power, right? A judge has an enormous amount of power. Some people don't realize that are in a seat like that, in a position of power like that, that they are still a servant, that they work for us, that they serve us. The overwhelming, overriding impression I get is that Judge Verkamp, for one, this isn't about him, and these 4 people right here, I feel as though they are here to serve, right? I said one time to somebody, I think I said to my son, I would never want to go to prison, but I wouldn't want to get sent to prison. But if I ever had to get sent to prison, I would want it to be by Judge Verkamp, because I could be there knowing that he did the best that could be done. And that's what I expect, whether you agree with me or not, whether you rule in my favor or not, whether you decide to do what I want you to do or not. I expect your best. I expect you to put a great deal of time and care and consideration, and more than anything else, I expect you to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Indiana, which every elected official takes an oath to do that. You can tell who you're comfortable with. You can tell who's going to do the right thing and who's not. I can. I can look at somebody and I can say that person's motives are altruistic. And those are the people that I want representing me. And I don't want anybody else other than people like that to represent me. One thing I want to point out, we talk about how we get on agendas and how these things happen. I will sheepishly admit to all of you that on things like Senate Bill or House Enrollment Act 127 that allowed for the creation of the RDA, I was nowhere to be found. When I heard about issues like the Mid-States Corridor, I asked Mark Mesmer, hey, this thing's not coming through my farm. He said, no, we're going to go to Hayesville and hang a right. Okay, no big deal. Out of sight, out of mind, until they decided to put it through my farm. Now it's not so. Now it's not such a small thing. My point in bringing that up is that is it incumbent on Tiffanie to do a really good job posting on her Facebook account so that you all know, or is it incumbent upon us to pay attention to what's going on? Who does the onus lie?
Can I answer that? So just me personally, I do think that there is responsibility in us as public citizens to try and keep an eye on everything. It's impossible. It's exhausting. It's a full-time job, which is why I think that it is our elected officials who this is literally their job. It is their job to make sure that they are communicating with their constituents. Do we as public citizens need to also do better? And I think everybody in this room is here with that same thought. I've been guilty of being unaware and not paying attention. You're raising kids, you're working, life is hectic. And I think that's what we're all waking up to, is that we all need to be doing better at that. But if your elected official only comes out when it's time to earn your vote and communicate with you, then they're not doing their job.
Okay, all right. One of the things that, excuse me for just a minute. This is a great opportunity for me to stop talking, sir. Please.
one of the communication things that elected officials to the public is through our newspapers, radio, those kinds of things. We don't have functioning newspapers anymore. So I think we need to look at how do we get information out, unbiased information, which, should always come from elected officials. It should come from a source that has weighing information to help those of us in the public kind of understand what's going on. So what do we do going forward without newspapers and without other types of press? Do we adopt social media? What do we do? Because I think that's the root of a lot of things.
Alan, I don't have the tonal answer, but I know that if the agendas for the county council and county commissioners would have been accessible to everyone, and I know we post them, but like you said, in very sparsely read periodicals or Facebook posts that people may not see, I think we would have had more, we would have been ahead of the solar game a little bit earlier when that was discussed a few years ago. I don't know the answer, but I know that something needs to change so that people can see these issues so they don't slip through.
Well, not even it's how you operate, so we can't hear you. So see what's going on in the mundane stuff. I think there, that was one of the nice things when the Herald was functioning. There was somebody at each of the meetings that came through and gave a report. Well, we don't have that. And so it's not as convenient by any means to have access to that information. So I guess I'm suggesting that we need to figure out what we can do how do we do that now?
In my opinion, it's kind of interesting that the cost of sending information has gotten so low that it has become a problem because it's very easy. How do you find out what channel has? Yeah. So it's really information overload. Like you walk through a grocery store and you've got a very short list. The only way you're getting out of there with that list is to like put your head down until you get to that aisle. Right. And I feel like that's kind of the information landscape right now. And in some ways we've created ourselves. I haven't had a subscription to a newspaper in years. And we vote with our dollars. So you have to be very creative at trying to get your message out. You got to really think about who is it you're trying to get your message to. And at a local level, it's a different problem than at a state level or a national level. It can be very difficult to get things out. Like they could play advertisements about their agenda on the evening news, and if you don't watch that channel, you might not hear about it. So, in part, I think the best case scenario is that we reach enough people that word gets out enough that we get a representative sample of the people who are out there. And the people who care about the issue most, they're usually going to come to you. So we're going to hear those. Like we've got a lot of people, issue-oriented folks out in the audience right now. And we need that. And we also need to know what everybody else thinks on top of it.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. One of the things, I'll come up to you, man. One of the things that has troubled me always just a little bit is that I have to take off work, right? The company that I consult for works 7 states. I woke up in Syracuse, New York this morning, and spent all day in an airplane to get here. And so I don't want to have to attend a commissioners meeting at 9 a.m. There's a lot of us, I'm sure, who would appreciate being able to attend those meetings. What, Doug, you expound on that? What's the rumpus there?
That's been a big topic that I've heard a lot of people say that I'd go to these meetings if I could, but I can't take off work all the time. And when a meeting is from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on a Monday, every other Monday or the first and third Monday of the month, it's consistent, yes, but 90, or I guess I don't know the percentage, but the vast majority of the people can't make these meetings. So I'm going to try to get the meetings to be at a time that's more convenient for everybody to come in, or more people to come, 4:30, 5 o'clock or something like that, where we can have them in the evening time where people can come in after work, or take off a little early, maybe if need be, or something like that, or just be more available. Like I said earlier, we need to be more available and accessible to people. So I think that's part of the whole issue that we're running into as well. People may want to come in and talk, and I've heard it at different meetings. Individuals have said, "Well, I come in more often, but I have to take off work. And I can't do that, or I have to make sure my kids are being watched, or whatever." So we need to do better on that. I believe as far as the commissioners do.
And that kind of goes full circle back to what we're talking about earlier, is that who's the boss of all this, right? If you walk into the commissioners, and it would be Chad Blessinger is the current president, and Nick Hostetter, and you said, hey, I think people would rather have these meetings in the evening, and they don't want to do that, that's the end of it. If everybody in this room calls in and says, I want these meetings to be in the evening, I have a feeling those meetings are going to be in the evening. I'll get right to you, sir. I'm going to let this lady ask her question.
So commissioners meetings, can they be a little more flexible? And what I mean is, about a month ago, went to a commissioners meeting, and it was an important vote. It was, or wasn't a vote, it was a discussion, and it was on shutting down a county road for a private company. And in 5 minutes, they voted to shut it down, and they did not hear from one person that lives on that road. That's not right. And when we tried to speak up, we were like, wait a minute, aren't you going to let us talk? And they were like, you get 3 minutes at the end of the meeting after it's done. At some point, they should have said, okay, this is pretty important. We're going to let a couple of you speak about this before we vote. They waited. And then what Nick said was, we talked about it last meeting. You should have been at that meeting. We didn't know what they were going to talk about. We didn't know they were going to shut the road down. And when we said, he told us, you should have called me. You should have emailed me in between the meetings. And a couple of people said, we did, and you did not respond. And he was like, let's move on. So somehow you representing us, you need to listen to us. And even if it's against the rule, at some point you have to say, this is important enough that we got to stop our rule. We need to listen to the people.
I've actually done that, and it was kind of an accident. Like you said, the rule is to give 5 minutes, and I asked the rest of the council one evening to allow individuals to speak a little bit longer. And it was against the rules I routed. But if something is affecting individuals in a certain area, they need to know about it. They also need to be voiced. The idea of government is it runs slow, but I think that certain things it needs to, because everybody that is affected needs to be able to have a chance to let their opinions. Yeah.
Well, if you weren't so scary, you wouldn't get the cops called on you, man. I was saying. I'm gonna come back to you, sir, Mary Ellen.
Okay, sorry. I just want to make a comment in how we handle that in city council. And I don't know if this is something that could be adopted or changed, but in terms of if a line item is on the agenda, people sign up ahead of the meeting to say, I want to speak, and everyone gets 3 minutes. We've let them go extended periods before, but if a certain topic comes up, that line item on the agenda, and there are people there to speak on that agenda, we don't wait until public comment at the end. If they're there for a certain issue, so we do our, okay, here's what we're about to discuss among council, any comment from the public. in terms of this particular item before, and then public comment, they're allowed to come up and speak ahead of the vote for that line item. I don't know if that's not how it's typically done. I'm curious.
To be fair to Dubois County, I read through the rules of decorum, and I believe we do reserve the right, or they try to keep public comment to the end. But you're right. I watched council meetings, commissioner meetings from all over. Everybody's kind of different. And Sandy can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we have adopted this style where the public comment is reserved to the end, because we were reading through it because we didn't know for sure. We were getting questions from people like Sheila. Why aren't we talking on the issue before it's voted on? It was a good question, so I looked at that. And Dubois County could possibly change it, and Sandy can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's how I interpret it.
Alice, I'd like to know about that. If that is the case, if Dubois County does do it differently than everybody else, and I can say that they actually do, right? I want to know why. Did it just happen to be that way, or was that by design? Because although, thank you for allowing us to speak, but I'll be frank, I don't want to waste 5 minutes of my time if everybody's made up their mind already. I'm with Sheila Wenholt over here, and I'm with Doug. I want what I have to say. I want my concerns. I want to engage in substantive dialogue. And that means that if, you guys are listening to what I'm saying and you're considering the concerns that we have, and you're making those concerns part of your decision before you vote. If it's a shoe-in, if it's all decided before we even get there, I'm not sure that's how things are supposed to be, Mary. And then I'm going to hand the phone off to this guy.
Yeah. So, and I heard you speak, maybe there is a first reading, y'all have first reading and then second reading, right? Yeah. So there is opportunity, for first reading to know that this is what's coming up. And so a lot of people will speak at the end of the meeting when it's just first reading to say, here's what I want to say. But still, I really appreciate the fact that people speak on that particular item. But again, it goes back to being aware and the community being engaged to know that there even is a first reading, that this is what's coming up for a vote in 2 weeks. And are we doing our job as representatives to make sure that that information is out there to say, here's the first reading, this is what's coming up for vote in our next meeting. But it's yeah.
Thank you for that, Mary. I have a question back here.
Yeah, I'm gonna risk the evening's first stupid question and probably naive, but this is the first town hall, okay, a couple weeks ago. This is first really town hall that I have seen advertised or anything. I understand it would be difficult to get the appropriate politicians or whoever together once a quarter, once a month, once every other month, but it doesn't seem like that's rocket surgery to me.
It's rocket science or brain surgery.
Yeah.
I know. He knows that. He knows that. Oh, thank you very much for that. That's a good question. I'm wondering that begs the question, when you guys set this up, did you guys just invite yourself? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but this guy has a fabulous question. It's a world-class question. Did you guys just invite yourself? And if so, why?
I mean, the whole purpose of this was to bring people together to kind of explain how some of this works, because not everybody's engaged with it, and to have a dialogue and show that we can cooperate to get stuff done when we all know we agree on it. And how do you go about figuring out what the thing is that needs to be done? So we did invite as many electeds as we could get a hold of. Several of them did express a desire to show up, but there were problems. Some of them didn't get back with us, and everyone was invited to attend. And I noticed that we have several people in the audience that did show up, and I thank you for that. The information flow has to go both ways, and sometimes there's a little bit of telling people how it works. If you don't know how you could get to speak at a meeting, then you can't speak at a meeting. I mean, that's something everyone who's done it has had to learn before. And let me tell you, those meetings aren't necessarily as boring as you might think they are. Sometimes there's some really interesting stuff that shows up. That answers the question.
It does, yeah. Thank you.
So you know, this is the first round of town halls that you've heard of. This is the first one that this first series that I've ever heard. And, you know, understanding, yes, people are busy. It's hard to get all the electeds here, you know, trying to get all those people. But the comment, and again, this may be naive because I'm fairly new to all of this, but when something is important, you will make the time to be there. And if it was important for people, for your electeds or your candidates to hear what you have to say, then it would be a priority to be here is how I feel.
Thank you for that. You know, we used to have debates, right? There used to be debates. Alex, you're not up for reelection right now. Nobody's running against you. Brad, you're running against, you know, my guy, Daryl Schmidt. You're running against Amy Kippenbrock, a Republican. Would you two be willing to have an appropriate debate with your opponent?
Absolutely.
Brad?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who knows me loves that's my favorite thing to do.
Brad, the master debater. Ma'am.
I don't want this to sound inappropriate, but Brad, was your opponent, Mr. Schmidt, invited tonight?
Yeah.
Tiffany, was your opponent, Amy Kippenbrock, invited tonight?
I was not in charge of the invite list.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark says she was invited.
Mary Allen, was your opponent, Mark Messmer, invited? That's kind of what I figured. So now I have a question real quick for Mary Allen. Since Mark Messmer absolutely refuses to meet with his constituents, refuses to hold a town hall, will you please debate him?
I just want to say something because I just saw her and I don't want her to be neglected, but Amy Kippenbrock is here today.
Sorry, to answer your question, that has been asked and we've been by a third party and we have been informed that he will not be on stage with me at the same time, that he would not debate me.
In fairness, I want to say something about that. In fairness to people's opponents, things like this, and I'm not being facetious, things like this can be scary. I'm not a public speaker. I'm a bricklayer. I was asked to chair the Property Rights Alliance. I felt like there were people way more qualified to do that than me. So sometimes things like this are scary. I've heard some candidates say, oh no, I'm not walking into that room. I don't know what's going to happen. Daryl Schmidt said that. No, I'm not interested in walking into that room. I don't know what's going to happen. Well, I don't know what's going to happen, right? Before I started talking about the Mid-States Corridor, for instance, the company that I work for did over $1 million worth of work in Dubois County. The minute I took a stance against the Mid-States Corridor, I've only had one job in Dubois County. We went from over $1 million to what you pay me to work on your chimney, Mrs. Melfier. None of us know what's going to happen. None of us know what's going to happen. None of us, if we're afraid to be put on the spot, if we're afraid to get up here and bear it all, right? Get out.
And can I say one thing as far as the accessibility and showing up our public officials? And I will say, as far as state legislature, one thing I enjoy going to during this session is our Meet Your Legislators. I don't know if you all have that up here with our League of Women Voter hosts Meet Your Legislators one Saturday a month during state session, so that when you know what bills are coming before the State House, you can go then and ask your representatives, Senate and House, how they're going to vote and why, and give them your opinion. And I'm teeing you up here, but I would ask if you all have a meet your legislatures at one Saturday a month during state session, will you all participate in something like that?
That would be 2 or 3 times a year, right?
That's right. It's four Saturdays. Yes.
I mean, I spend more than that in a weekend, right?
It's such an important time for us to learn about those bills and to hear and see our representatives' thoughts and behind those and the reasons why or why not they plan on voting for those, and to be able to hear from their constituents. So yeah, thanks for that.
In 2010, Todd, we were in the 9th district in Jasper, Dubois County. Todd Young ran for Congress, unknown. I vividly remember, because I was his county coordinator, we had a debate at BUJC. Bill Potter moderated it. It was a really good time. I mean, a lot's changed in 10 to 15, 20 years. That was common. We go to BUJC, state candidates, congressional candidates, and I know, like I said, because I was heavily involved in that. So it's Barron Hill and Todd Young. You could probably YouTube it if you wanted.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we still have a lot to cover. And I'll get to your question here, Mrs. Melchior, I promise. The theme that we're talking about, everything we've talked about for the last 30 minutes that we've been in here, however long, I'm not looking at the clock, is all about representation and being heard and being listened to. Everything we've talked about, that's what we're talking about, right? I want to ask about, so the legislature cut property taxes, and the difference will presumably need to be made up by the county. On the county council, what does that actually look like? What is the choice in front of you, and who gets to make that choice? Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you expound on that?
Jason's probably referring to Senate Enroll Act 1 and the ramifications for local governments. We all will see a property tax, or homeowners will see a property tax deduction, I think 10% up to $300 off of their property tax bill. Seniors and military veterans will also have something that gives them more relief on property taxes. As far as the local government, property taxes are basically the biggest chunk. So we're going to have to, and we're not a revenue generator as a county. I was talking to some department heads, how are we going to make some money? And we're not even like a municipality like the city that sells gas and water and sewer and electric. The local income tax, if our budgets start busting or getting close, I could see something coming there. But I don't want to take too much time. We'll let Doug have his opinion, but we really are not a revenue generator at the county level. So I'm very concerned, and I am a budget hog myself. So.
You said it. It's scary to see what's coming for us, how we're going to make up this difference, this deficit. So, yeah, I agree.
Business, personal property, also in the farm, everyone's exempt under $2 million. That's essentially every farm, because every year we report our farm machinery, our buildings, and certain things that are personal property assets that are for business, and that's a lot of revenue itself. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
And that Senate Enrolled Act 1, I think that left about a $1.4 billion gap for all counties if we combine it all together. Do you know how much it is for Dubois County, or do you know by chance what the whole was?
I pulled at one point, but I can't pull the number.
It's being phased in, so I don't know that we see the ramifications immediately. This is not, I think by 2029 or 2030 is when you see full effects. And to be on the record, I am for seniors and military veterans getting extra relief. I'm happy that's in Senate Enroll Act 1. It's just, I don't know how the county governments are going to function. And Dubois County is like a gym in Southern Indiana. What's going to happen to Mark?
Yeah, Martin County. I don't even know. I don't even know where to start there. One of the things I'm hearing is that the city has revenue generating machines. They sell utilities, things like that, but the county doesn't. Right? The county relies solely on tax dollars coming in. Okay. Okay. So last week when I attended the BESS meeting, I said to the city commissioners that we have a contract. I feel like I have a contract with you three people. I pay property taxes on 70,000 square feet of commercial real estate in Dubois County, right? You guys asked for the job. We gave it to you. Okay. The trade-off is I give you my tax money. You represent best interests of the majority of your constituents, not just a few rich people over here. And I expect that contract to be upheld. I mean, I flat out expect for that contract to be upheld. Hell, it's not even fair for me. What's the percentage? Steve Lukemeyer here in the audience. What's the percentage of our tax dollars that goes to fund schools? Right? It's a lot. My kids don't even go to school here. I'm not complaining about that. Right? What would happen if everybody started feeling like the county, our elected officials, weren't holding up their end of the bargain, and we all collectively said, you know what? And I'm not suggesting this, so don't get any ideas. But really think about it, for instance. If you pay your tax, who here doesn't pay their taxes?
Don't raise your hand.
Thought I could coax at least one or two out. Okay, so if we all pay our taxes, it follows then that our elected officials should represent us, right? When Shirley Steffenagel was asked point blank, where do you stand on the Mid-States corridor? She said, I'm going to go the side of industry. I'm going to go the side of industry. That was her answer. Watch it on YouTube. I'm going to vote on the side of industry. Pretty vague. But what I extrapolated from that was, yeah, no, I'm not being represented here. And I don't like that.
Hey, Jason, can I interject? One interesting thing I think about this property tax bill is it has driven a lot of conflict between the citizens and, the commissioners and the county officials, because they were left with this hole, and you've got, basically no choices for the county, right? And you can either cut services, or in some cases, you can raise taxes and raise revenue. But the property tax bill, if you want to do property tax relief, fine. But when you cut 1.4 billion and you don't plug the hole, and the only option is cutting services, and let's face it, we're in a rural part of the state. We have more miles of road per person. We have more miles of pipe per person than like in Evansville or other cities. That property tax, I mean, it is already stretched. So to leave a shortfall so big and don't really give us any options except to duke it out with our local officials, that's not very sound policy on mine.
Well, and I'd like to add to that, having spoken with a lot of our, in Davies County, our local, and, here from Alex and Doug, what this has really done is, so now there is the option, this bill has also given your county council, your city council, it's given them the option to increase your local income tax or create one. I sat through a meeting a couple weeks ago, and there is the potential, if the maximum is taken everywhere in Du Bois County, for example, and this is not saying that this is what their plan is, but just learning about this. Right now, I believe your current local income tax is 1.2% in the county. If all of the maximums are taken, it could increase to 2.9. So that $300, that burden is just being shifted. It's not really tax relief. It's just a different tax.
Thank you for clarifying that. One thing while it's fresh in my mind, a few months ago, before the RDA got canceled, there was talk of the city of Jasper and Du Bois County having to take over the maintenance of 231 if the Mid-States corridor gets built. Did either of you, Doug and Alex, see a world in which we, the taxpayers, could afford to contribute to that?
No, I didn't, but I also did, I will commend, at least Chad on the commission side. He was very vehemently opposed to that because of what that loaded question just asked. No, we can't afford it. And, if we're gonna, have this new burden with the way Tiffany said the restructuring will work, and then to try to maintain that, big section of roadway that needs some repair, that would be, I don't know how we would do it.
Yeah, there's no way we could take that over without some sort of additional help somewhere.
Thank you, Doug.
And even that, it would be difficult, I believe.
Thank you. I have a question over here or a comment.
Yes, on property tax and that. I ran a business for 35 years and stuff, incorporated, took advantage of all the tax break corporations get. It's unbelievable. Felt guilty at times. I've had farm ground, several hundred acres already. I get in from 2017 to 2023. My property taxes dropped on my land for 5 years. And then it went up in 2023, what it was in 2017. And then the politicians always say, oh, the farmers need help. My taxes went up. They didn't go up for 5 years. I was paying $12 to $15 property tax on rolling ground. I felt guilty, and it dropped. They tax farm ground at 20% of its value. I've got apartments. They tax me almost 50% of the value of my apartments. I've got a house. They tax me almost 50% of the value of my house. My house doesn't make me money. The farm ground make me money. It was cheap tax. I mean, it is not fair. The poor people that rent from me, they get no breaks. They pay more tax to live in a 1,200 square foot apartment than I do to live in my nice big house. I don't want my taxes to go up either, but they're really cheating tenants. People out there think, oh, people that rent don't pay tax. They pay more tax than you do on your house. If you check into it once, it's just unfair.
What's your name? Can I ask you what your name is? Randy, I've never heard that before. Somebody who's actually willing to pay a little more of his fair share of taxes. Wow. My hat's off to you. Thank you. Really, honestly. Yeah. Good job. You know what that does? So for me, Randy, that makes me want to contact Ryan Mishler and my elected officials up at the State House and talk to these guys about, let's look into that right there. And let's see, what I just understood him to say was he could conceivably accept a little more of a tax burden if it helps out people like his renters who don't get the tax breaks. Now, I know that sounds crazy coming from a conservative Republican, but it makes sense to me. Thank you for bringing that up. I want to talk real quickly about land use and zoning. Who, please raise your hand if you're not sheepish about it, and raise your hand if you think that zoning issues, because that's one of the issues that are on the table right now, may affect you positively or negatively. Raise your hand if you think you're going to be affected by zoning issues. Okay. I don't really know much about this. Other than that, as a Republican, I don't like regulation. I don't like it. I'm all for business. I want business to move in, and a lot of it, as long as it doesn't harm anybody. And the feeling that I'm getting, some of the talk that I've been hearing is that some of these businesses moving in, data centers, best, potentially have the potential to harm people. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say about zoning? I'll come over to you.
So I have been appointed, I was appointed by Mayor Vonderheide to serve on the City of Jasper Board of Zoning Appeals. So I've done that for a while. A lot of people tend to have a bad misconception about what zoning actually is. A lot of people think it's only there to hurt you. I promise you, in almost every single case that I've had to make a decision on, it's always been there to help the homeowner. One of the most famous examples was about, I'd say 2 years ago. This was on the outskirts of Jasper, but still within the mile, I think it's a 3 mile radius. A lady had bought a property in a little kind of area that had probably 20 people that had lived there for 40 years and put a dog business in there. And every single person that had lived there said that they could not get a single night's rest because of how many dogs were living out there. And the zoning said that she had to come before us to ask permission for that business. So at first we all thought, okay, it's totally fine. It's just a business. It's a dog grooming place. Until every single person that had stake around that business came and showed up and said, that's not the situation. That's not what's actually going on. Here's the truth. Here's what's going on. They're causing damage to our properties and none of us are okay with this. Then the board gets a fuller idea of what's happening and we can put a stop to that. But the point of that is that a lot of people think zoning's there to hurt you. Zoning protected the livelihood of probably 20 different people because somebody, a private interest, bought a piece of land next to them and put this building there that they wanted nothing, or a business there that they wanted nothing to do. So I know it's hard to change your mind about that, but zoning is not, it can be, don't get me wrong, it can be. But if we're all paying attention to who's on the board and who gets elected to those positions and appointed to those positions and talk to your mayor about whether or not somebody's a good fit for it, zoning is there to protect you and to help protect your property and your livelihood. So that's the one thing I have about zoning. It's for Dubois County to not have countywide zoning, I think is a big mistake. It's one of our only safeguards against something like the battery energy storage solutions, the best problem. Having at least a say that, hey, hold on, we're going to put a pause on this. We're going to do a little bit more research. We're not going to okay that just yet. But as it currently stands with no zoning, there is nothing that any elected official has power-wise to stop something like this. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Can I speak a little bit to that?
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so this is an interesting case because I've talked to lots of people who had historically, been against zoning, and some people now think that maybe that could help us with with some of the fights about data centers. And this is one of those cases where I think the politicians that come up with the ideas need to reach out, and if they believe in those ideas, they basically need to campaign on them, and they have to build trust, and they have to build consensus. And I mean, a law is a tool like a hammer. You can drive a nail or you can smack someone in the head with it. So before you can expect the citizenry to trust you in implementing a radical change, and when I say radical, not necessarily in implementation, but in framing and a concept, you really have to build that consensus. I mean, imagine what could happen with BEST or the Mid-States Corridor or any of these other things if they had built a consensus among the people that were affected before they tried to push the project. I probably wouldn't be here right now if that would have happened.
So can I ask a question and just to clarify and make sure that I'm correct on this? Zoning would require, when a project wants to move in, it would require pre-notification of the surrounding landowners.
If it wasn't formally approved for that use, yes.
Thank you. So some of these projects on agricultural ground that had to be rezoned, we've talked a lot about transparency and sharing information and making sure that people are notified. You know, that is something that would let people and surrounding landowners know before these projects go through. I can't make that decision for Dubois County. That's a decision that is best made by the people that live here. I will tell you that being in Davies County, when a data center did want to come in, zoning is what helped keep that stuff from just moving right in. It gives you some safeguards. And like you said, there's good and there's bad, and it has to be implemented the right way. And it needs to be implemented with a lot of local input. But it's just something to consider that out of the 92 counties in Indiana, there are 12 that have no zoning. 9 of them are in the 8th district. Okay. 3 of them are in my district alone. So it is something to think about. Why are these projects coming to rural areas? Because there are no zoning protections, and they know that these are projects that can be pushed through with NDAs and with secret names and things like that. So,
But to be fair, you don't only have solar and data center problems in zone counties. And I'm not going to come out and say I'm still learning, But your zoning is only gonna be as good as your area plan commission and your board zoning appeals. We could screw it up immensely where it's carte blanche for a company to come in because of our zoning ordinances that are in place. If we do it, it has to be done right. Because when I did the solar tax abatement moratorium, that came from northern Indiana. I network with colleagues in Elkhart County who are dealing with this, and they've had zonings for ages. So zoning is not a cure-all. It can be done, and it can be okay, but it could also be a disaster. If you get utility board members appointed on your area planning commission or zoning appeals, everything will get approved. So be careful what you wish for. And Dubois County residents use good discretion for 200 years because we're smart and we never did anything crazy, but we do have to protect ourselves from this type of industrial waste that's coming into the countryside. But we don't want to beat up on the county too much for not having zoning. We just had common sense farmers that ran the country or the county for 200 years. So.
Thank you for that, Alex. I have two questions here. One of the things that I'd like to clarify, is it the case, Alex and Doug, that the onus falls on the commissioners to approve zoning or not, and not the council? Is that the case?
Yes.
That's the case.
Okay. So once again, you are all, is incumbent upon all of you, I see you, I will get to you, is incumbent upon of all of us to help these people understand what we want, right? Sir, you.
I just wanted to speak to the zoning issue. One of the worst things, and I really appreciate what you were saying, Alex. I think you're dead on. The way that zoning is implemented is hugely important. One of the biggest problems is when there's no rules, anything can happen. And right now, anything can pretty much happen in the countryside. So you've got to look at zoning and say to yourself, if anything can happen, anything will. What's happening is anything is coming because outside developers are saying, hey, they don't have any rules. I'm ready. I'm coming. So it's something that really has to be considered. I'm going to do something I probably may regret, but I'm going to do it anyway. I believe your commissioner has been asleep at the wheel because when I was the economic development director for 10 years, I mentioned county-wide zoning numerous times because I was starting to see these solar projects. I was starting to see all these things. First thing I had to do was send it to the commissioners. And I was told, oh, we don't want any rules. Okay, we don't have any rules. But there are repercussions for not having rules. I guess is my point. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, this is Ed Cole. He's running for Dubois County Council. I don't know that you were acknowledged.
I wasn't here.
Oh, okay, okay. You, ma'am, I'm gonna get to you here. You have your hand up next. Sir, would you mind passing this down?
So, so I live in Ireland and my house is going to be near this. I got wind of a battery storage place might possibly come in our neighborhood. So how do you find out if it's a finished deal or if there's anything you can do about it?
Nothing is a done deal until it's done. Right?
I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that. Nothing's a done deal.
Yeah, anything can happen.
Well, because they're working in the area, I found out from my neighbor, that they work at night and then during the day they're not working at all. So it's like, is it a done deal?
Well, if public opposition is your biggest obstacle to building something, you're going to build it as quickly as you can with as little fanfare or notices as possible. I mean, there are problems with zoning. There is consent of the governed. That's something that would have to be worked out. We basically, as a community, as a county, as a district, need to come together and figure out what the best way to deal with those are. I mean, for example, some common sense regulation could be applied to things like data centers. We're worried about them pumping our aquifers dry. We could require closed loop cooling, set reasonable limits on how much they can draw from an aquifer. We could make them actually produce the energy that they use and give some back to the communities that they affect. We could require setbacks. I mean, there's so much we could do. And honestly, if we had even a fraction of those, they would probably just move one county down where it's a little bit cheaper and they don't have those regulations. If it was at a state level, then we could maybe send them to another state that had a different opinion, if that's really what we wanted.
Is it the case, Brad? Does anybody here know? I mean, this is kind of a rhetorical question. I know that our governor, Mike Braun, is on a whirlwind tour promoting all of these things. Are we all aware of this? Okay. Once one in every county. I will tell you that I'm sure you were here when this lady here spoke about going into the commissioner's office and wanting to talk about this issue and wanting to have their voices heard. And I thought they were exaggerating when they said they shut them up and called the law. But I watched the video and they did shut them up and they did call the law. And to this lady's point, the law's been out there every other time. Last week when I was at the No Best meeting that the commissioners held out at the kind of a town hall thing out at the health department, there were two ladies there. One of them is in the audience right here who didn't raise their voice. They didn't behave in any way that could be construed as inappropriate at all. And Chad Blessinger, the president of the county commissioners, shut them both down right now, twice. Be quiet. Be quiet. I'll ask you to leave. And so to me, there's something going on right there. If there is that visceral of a response to somebody who's just wanting to be heard, I'm afraid that decisions have already been made on that. I will tell you this. When Aaron Brockovich gets involved in kinds of things, it's very serious. And as fast as these things are being set up, they're being shut down by people like the people in this room. Ma'am, I'm coming around to you. I appreciate since Anita getting around to you.
I want to say a little bit, something like Brad was talking on the zoning for data centers. I belong to a group called Southwestern Indiana Citizens for Quality of Life. And we heard of a data center coming to town. So in March, we held a forum that the Citizens Action Coalition came down and did for us on everything about data centers. And we kept on some of our elected officials. And this past Tuesday, just 2 days ago, Spencer County has an ordinance on data centers that says no elected official can sign an NDA. They have to have their own power source. They have to have their own water, rather than the water and the aquifers by the river, possibly. But no data center can go on any land that is not already industrial zoned. So farmland can't be taken for that.
I love the data center topic. Can I comment briefly on that? So I applaud you for educating your elected officials on what you want to do. I just wanted to also let everybody else know that now Spencer County is off limits. So now the pressure will be on Pike and the pressure will be on Dubois. So we have to, I don't think anybody knows what we will in the future all agree on is the right solution, but there is a solution. We have to work toward it.
This is a topic that I have been dealing with a lot. We did have one try and move into the town that I live in Washington. I've been working with constituents and locals in Pike County to try and be proactive because that is really what it's going to take. I think that we've learned that from a lot of projects here in Dubois County, that being proactive is way better than being reactive. Recently spoke with members of locals in Posey County, over 150 of them. A lot of people will tell you that there is nothing that state legislature can do about these data centers. That was said by one of their local state senators. They can. There is no reason that some of these abatements and incentives that were put in place in 2019 should still be in place now. We don't need to incentivize them to come here. They want to come here. We need to hold them accountable. If they want to come, they can pay their own way. You all pay sales tax on your utilities. Why is $1 billion company not going to pay sales tax on their utilities? We are already seeing these buildings and these processors able to use less energy, use less water, and have less of an impact on their communities, but it costs more money. And so a business is only interested in making money. So there are ways that we can hold these companies accountable and only attract the ones that want to come and be good neighbors. And a good place to start is by taking a look at those incentives that were put in 2019. My husband and I were just recently in Columbus at the Corn and Soybean Growers Ag Summit. Kendall Culp got up and spoke about it. And let me tell you right there, that was a very reasonable Republican that I can work with, because he said the exact same thing. They should be paying their own way. And that's what I'm talking about. We can work together to do what's best for all of you.
A billion, pushing a trillion in some cases. These are very big numbers. They have some cash sitting around.
Alex?
Regarding Dubois County, I did present the Board of Commissioners with the Marshall County data center moratorium. Theirs is indefinite. To be fair to our Board of Commissioners, Marshall County is zoned, and they are the most probably adamantly opposed to data centers that I could talk to and network with. So I guess I'm not going to put the burden on the commissioners to say they didn't do what I wanted, because I don't know legally, as we are unzoned, if they could adopt what Marshall County did. But I did give them the language and I guess the bedrock of what we could do potentially in the future.
Speaking on that through pressure through our locals, Washington City Council is working on passing 2-year moratorium on data centers in our area. And from their understanding research they did, an indefinite one will most likely not hold up in court.
Thank you for that, Tiffany. So we're going to wind this down here in about the next 15 minutes. So we have other people to hear from, but I want you guys to be able to anticipate what's going to happen next. I'm going to let other people that haven't had a chance to speak yet speak now. And if you're one of those people that has wanted to raise your hand, but you haven't yet, we've got about another probably 5 or 6 minutes to do that. And then before we end up, I'm going to turn it over to the candidates and just kind of leave it up to them to just, you guys, one-on-one, and I'm going to step out of it towards the end. So try to keep your comments brief, and I'm going to hand it to Ginny Melchior here first. Ms. Melchior.
Okay, this brings me up to a point that I have been thinking about throughout all of this. We all know that democracy is a really sticky business. Everybody in this room probably has different ideas of what's good, what's bad, what they like, and what they don't like. When we get one party controlling everything, and it makes the rest of us, that makes the people who are out of power not feel like they have any stake in things at all. And it doesn't always happen that way. Usually there's a lot of division. And it takes more than debate. We talked about debate. It takes dialogue, and it takes listening to other people and trying to look at what is best. That's obviously done best on a small level when you have a local group of people and you can listen. It takes time to build any kind of a consensus, and you don't have to like every part of it. But I think it's important to focus on respect and being honest and having integrity in order to bring these things in. And when we see all the big money coming in and sneaking in, it makes a lot of us uncomfortable to think that we're being overtaken by a group of people that have more money than they know what to do with. And when you're a small farmer, when you're a small household owner, these things are really important. So I think things like this, where people get together, talk these things out, find out what we have in common, which I think somebody mentioned, we probably have about 90% of things in common. We
or more.
want to, We take care of each other. We're kind to each other. We get along with each other. I don't get into fights over things in the grocery. I don't grab things out of people's hands. I don't have to do that to me here. Nope. Working by talk and by listen. Really important. So that's
Thank you, Mrs. Maloney. I think we're starting to see that trend really take off. 3 years ago, I would have been caught dead around half these people in this room. I wouldn't have, and you guys probably me too.
Yeah, you have to have that open, honest discussion and be willing to talk about and continue to talk about. And when that communication breaks down, that's when we have our problems. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We can keep discussing and talking.
I think it's important to say too, that as a Democrat running for office, I don't want to see a Democrat supermajority. I think that we lose transparency and accountability when we only have one party in power. We lose that balance. And I think that that is what a lot of us, regardless of what side of the aisle we are on, want to see brought back to government.
And that's what we had in Jasper. I mean, I was told by my grandpa that you might get driven down to the bowling place for a bottle of whiskey. Like, they feel like they have no check. I mean, there's nothing that you can't do, and there's no one to answer to.
That's right. There was a big shift.
Yeah, union factories closing down and all kinds of a series of events.
On the on the zoning thing, that train's down the track a little ways, maybe too far to stop some of this stuff. And, some farmers are just taking the money for the solar panels, this, that, and that. But yes, there's still regulations and rules that aren't being followed the way I understand. And that's where county and state really need to hold them to, and that can actually stop a project. So the other thing, I was talking to someone who was familiar with panels and batteries and stuff like that. I said, well, I guess all these companies are fully bonded. Like if there's a big hailstorm or tornado and just wipes out their infrastructure, this, that, or that. I guess they're really strongly and double bonded. And he says, nah, don't count on it. And he said, he knows of a area where they got wiped out by a storm, and then a company got notified about, or several companies put in bids to redo it, but that company who's put those bids out just still ain't choosing anyone because they just kind of like don't have the money there or don't want to spend it. So that ground is just sitting there, oof, like that. The other thing on the data centers, well, yeah, these folks got all kinds of money. Well, you keep my ear to different things on stuff. And so much of that is funded by borrowed. It's money's still cheap yet at the interest rate. And things could fall apart. Interest rates start going higher. These things could just be a ghost sitting there. So there's where state, local, they better make sure when they're saying we're coming in or well, we got the okay to come in, you better make sure that they're bonded, double bonded, and in case this, that, or that happens. So the zoning might not be all set in place. It might, like I said, might be too far. I don't know about that. But if they're moving or we're gonna to get that permit or whatever, they gotta just try and make sure they're bonded, double bonded and everything like that so that it isn't some ghost town or field or something sitting there.
So I think we've seen this with projects in the past. There's empty buildings and industrial buildings, shopping malls. In Washington, we've spent a lot of taxpayer money cleaning up Tolkien. It's been a big mess. And so these are absolutely, just like you talked about, these are the things that you can put in place to make sure that the companies that are coming in want to be good neighbors. Because when something goes bad and their shell corporation files bankruptcy and they take their money and run, you guys are going to be the ones left cleaning it up. So putting those things and attracting the right companies, I think everyone here wants economic growth. Everybody here wants good paying jobs. They want their kids and grandkids to be able to stay here and have good paying jobs. But we have to make sure that we're attracting the right people and they're going to be responsible and good stewards of where they move into.
Thank you for that, Tiffany. Who here was alive in 2008? So you guys know what I'm going to say, right? We had to bail out GM, we had to bail out AIG, we had to bail out Morgan Stanley. All these people that for years, hundreds of years, 100 years or better in most cases, we look up to these companies as companies that are too big to fail. And that was the excuse that was given to the American taxpayer. We cannot allow these companies to fail. We can't. If we don't come in, we being the taxpayers come in and bail these companies out, then, the threat was that we're going to lose our economy and it's going to make the Great Depression look like a walk in the park. And so we stepped up, taxpayers. Nobody called me and asked me what I thought about it, right? It was Ben Bernanke and Alan Greenspan. All those people just made a decision. Okay, we're going to spend the taxpayers' money to the tune of, what was it, $1 trillion? I can't remember. I've tried to block it out. We had to bail them out. And I think that's what Mr. Terry Uebelhor is talking about right there. One thing, Terry, as you were sitting there talking, that I was thinking about was something that you said to me a year ago after one of our PRA meetings. And it's when Mary Allen showed up. And I think it was the first time she came. I think maybe Brad was either courting a candidacy or maybe he had announced it, I'm not sure, but you and I haven't talked about politics much, but I just assume that you're, like me, pretty conservative. And I'm paraphrasing here, and it's been a year, and I'll be 60 next month, so you'll have to forgive me if I don't get it quite right. But to me, what I thought I heard you say was that you voted Republican your entire life, would never even consider crossing the line. But something about this group coming together makes you feel like you could consider other candidates and not just vote one way. Am I remembering that right, basically? Thank you for sharing that with me. To me, that's what this is all about. It's what Jeannie Melchior just talked about. I support Alex Hohl and Brad Hoeksang and Doug Uebelhor, Tiffanie Arthur. I support Mary Allen. I support Judge Verkamp because I believe that these people are all altruistic. They have a vast amount of experience, especially in Judge Verkamp's case, I think 20 years on the bench. These are the people that I want representing me. And I'm to the point I don't care anymore if they've got a donkey behind them or an elephant behind them. Mr. Blake? Sorry. I called you Mr. Blake.
No worries. I just had a quick question about, the zoning with the data centers and stuff. As a guy that doesn't like rules put on me by anybody ever, is there a way to separate that? Maybe the zoning be nuanced where, businesses and industry fall under one set of rules and personal property and things like that fall under another?
So I live in a county with zoning. My husband farms 9,000 acres. We have never had a problem with zoning. There has never been anything we've wanted to do on our ground. There's never been anything we've wanted to do at our house. We put in a pool, an above ground pool, and nobody gave a rip. We've redone our septic. No, we didn't get a knock on the door. We've done plenty of work, and our guys do plenty of improvements on their farm. They do plenty of things on their farm, irrigation, tile, all of that kind of work. The zoning police haven't knocked on their door yet. It's helped with some projects. He also sits on the levy or on our Prairie Creek board. Someone was threatening, they were putting in a cell tower in a floodplain and threatened to knock down one of the levees. So, there are some protections that might be important if you live near that levee, but we've had no problems. We haven't had any issues with it. So I think, they've talked about zoning, there's bad zoning, and having input and really thinking about, like I said, this is not a decision I can make for Dubois County. I can't vote here, but it's something that I think a lot of discussion and thought needs to be put into, but from our personal experiences, no, we haven't had any issues like that.
I've got time for about probably maybe two more questions.
All of you candidates that are sitting up there tonight, elected and unelected. I understand that Governor Holcomb put about $85 million into a cookie jar for the sole purpose of Highway US 231 improvements. I'm asking you that do get elected, find that cookie jar and bring it home. I'm not trying to talk about it. Every one of you that I can, and Judge Brooke can. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Bob. I have a question over here.
So in regards to the zoning, as constituents of this county, how do we make that happen? Do we come to the county commissioners meeting? Do we call you guys? Do we tell you we want to talk about it? How does that work?
Yes.
Yeah.
And vote. And as it stands right now, since we don't have zoning, the Board of Commissioners are going to issue the variances. They're going to say, oh, somebody's going to go to them and say, Doug, in a couple months after January, I want to build a house on this zone or deemed agricultural ground. Can we do it? So technically, as it sits, the Board of Commissioners are at their discretion is zoning outside of Huntington, Jasper, and Ferdinand and their ETJs, which are the extraterritorial jurisdictions. Now, whether we adopt zoning, Doug, if it doesn't get approved before Doug's in, he will have a say on that. So you can talk to him after the meeting.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Earlier in the meeting, we invited, we introduced the candidates and we invited anyone else running for public office here to stand up and introduce themselves. Amy, I didn't know if you were here at that moment in time. I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
I'm Amy Kippenbrock. I'm state rep candidate for District 63. I'm also Republican Party chair, and I felt like it was really important that I show up here tonight. It's a lot of pressure, I'm not going to lie. We've had some difference of opinions, but I find it very important as a candidate and as a Republican Party chair that I'm here to listen to what everybody's showing up to say. So while I may or may not have an opinion on something that we're talking about, whether it be here or something else, I find that it's important that we continue the dialogue. Like I've heard several people tonight talk about listening, having dialogue, and coming to a place that it's a good solution for our community. So that's why I'm here tonight. Thanks for letting me have my say and introduce myself.
All right, Adam's man had his hand up over here. I'm gonna probably finish off again. We usually do this. It's a tradition. We save the best for last.
Thank you. Just say, this is more of a comment in regards to like the zoning and like, oh, what happens to this data center after some years? It goes belly up, becomes a ghost. Well, Dubois County already has a scar similar to that. As I said, I'm from Boone Township. We have something called the Shamrock Coal Mine. One of the few rare moments in history where a coal mine went bankrupt and left it half done. There's a massive hill somewhere, and then there's a hole in the ground, and people complain about the acidity of their lakes, and then one of the bigger insults is when you hear about they had a meeting over the relief fund, the bond, which was $2 million, and a drop in the bucket to fix all this. But, well, the solar farm companies were there willing to talk with farmers with their money and say, hey, we can fix your fields, but we also want to put a solar farm on that field too, which I think is actually happening somewhere. But it's just to say we had that happen before. And I mean, county commissioners did sign the lease for that. And I hope we learn our lesson from that.
All right, one more.
Sorry. I'm going to go back to what I was discussing earlier about the meeting we were at. And I've been to meetings before where they let you have subject and they let you speak. That way, one of the last meetings I went to, I had to leave at 11. It lasted for 5 hours. These people sat there for 5 hours to talk for 3 minutes. If you did it where when you have discussion, you're talking about something, have the people talk about it, then they could leave. They wouldn't have to sit there for 5 hours. By 5 hours, they're irritable, and you're going to hear things that you might not have heard of.
Just a couple more things. When we all first came here, one of the first things we did was we stood and we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And for those of you who know me and have heard me stand up here and orate before, you know how I feel about that. The Pledge of Allegiance isn't something that we just memorized in kindergarten, right? There's an obligation associated with that. There's people in this room that have fought in wars and combat and have lost friends in combat. There's people who have lost loved ones in combat. There's people who have given their lives and the lives of their parents and the lives of their children to uphold what our Constitution and our flag stands for. Seems appropriate then for us to do our part and show up at a commissioner's meeting, right? And stay engaged. If we don't do that, we don't really have a right to complain, woe is me. And I'm the worst defendant of all. I was asleep at the wheel on SB 127. Had no idea. And so I take my oath a little more seriously now. And I would encourage the rest of us to do the same. I'm going to hand the mics over and we'll start right here. If the five of you would like to, Tiffanie, if we could actually start with you, we'll give you guys the closing words.
Sure. I think that the biggest takeaway. From what I've heard knocking doors and talking to people and, being at PRA meetings with you guys and talking with constituents and locals in Pike County is that a lot of people, we all used to say that all politics were local. And now we've really moved into this all politics are national. I'm starting to see that shift back, focused on local politics. And I think it's important because the four of us sitting right here, the decisions that are made here are what's really going to affect the majority of your day-to-day lives. So, there's a lot of, we're fighting against party lines because I think we've all gotten more focused on our team winning than being good neighbors and making our communities the best that they can be. I'm always here to talk. I'm always here to listen because I don't know what I don't know. And I think that it's really important that, one, we as candidates and we as elected officials, we listen and we be willing to admit that we don't know what we don't know. But I also think that it's important that we be clear on what we do believe and where we do stand on issues, because I don't think that it should be a bait and switch when someone gets in office. I know that there are concerns with running on a Democrat ticket that we're going to toe the Democrat Party line all the time. I can tell you, I've already called state leadership at times and had some words with them. I'm not here to put a party over anybody. It's time that we start putting people over profit and people over politics again. And that's why I'm here. And that is why I'm running for this office. So thank you guys for listening.
And the same thing. I just like that everybody came out. So many people came out just to talk about the issues that were. I just want to.
These are my mics, folks. I'm sorry.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming out, taking the time to talk with us, listen to us, and give your opinions.
I want to thank, I know Tiffanie talked about, bucking the party, and I want to thank all of my Republican colleagues here who've shown up. I think it's It shows a lot of courage. This is the first one we've done like this. Nobody knew how it was going to turn out. And also, I was thinking about what Tiffanie said. If I'm elected, my boss is not the party. My boss is not the governor. My boss is not the president. You all would be my boss. Thanks for coming. Yeah, great evening. I'm not real big on the false dichotomy of Republican, Democrat. I'm friends with everybody in this room. I'll talk to anybody in this room, and I'm never going to be one of those people, oh, can't talk to them or a Democrat. Me and Dennis Tito are friends, and I'll always be a friend of Dennis Tito. In fact, my favorite congressman, he got ran out by his own party. Thomas Massey worked with Democrats. He voted to release the Epstein files, and he voted to not go to war with Iran, or fund it at least, because we didn't even get a vote on that war. But they run those type of people out because they are willing to work with the Ro Khannas and the AOCs on things that matter for the American people. And I am the Thomas Massey of the Dubois County Council.
Yes.
So I'm going to give me the good mic. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep this quick. But it was somebody that had a question earlier about how to get information out, or they were asking how to stay up to date with different kinds of things. So I do want to take a quick second to poll the room. Please raise your hand if you only heard about this or saw this advertised on Facebook. Okay. What about radio? What about word of mouth? Okay. By and far, that is always going to be the biggest driver for how the community stays involved. So do not sleep on your friends and neighbors. Yes.
Dubois County Free Press.
Dubois County Free Press. Thank you for that. Yes. Matt Crane is such a friend and ally to every single person that lives in this county. Another thing that I do want to bring up, part of my role, and it's not always a fun part of the job, but I have to pay for a lot of different things. The party has to pay for a lot of different things. Candidates running for office is not cheap. Signs are not cheap. Advertisements are not cheap. Hosting events like this are not cheap. So I will, and Brenda may yell at me here, but I'm going to put this truth out there. So far in the donation bin, we've got $48. And I know that what everybody learned here tonight and the time they spent here learning about things and spending time with their friends and neighbors is worth more than $48. So I know that people in this room, as they walk out, if you have extra, you're able to give extra. So please do give a little bit more if you can. And also do not stop with us. Each one of these people up here running for office and the people in the crowd that are running for office desperately need some help as well too. They are not trillion-dollar companies that want to put the data center in your yard, and they're the ones fighting for you that do not have that money. So thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for being here. Please come to the next one. On those papers, there's should be the dates for all the next events that are on the table. They are also right here. Here are QR codes that are going to be playing. That'll stay on for the rest of the night. But thank you all so much. And Brenda, to wrap up the night, we have the door prize. Can I get a drum roll while she walks to the front? I'll come to you.
Oh, I am. I don't want this pressure.
Who's going to get a Democrat or a Republican?
BR 549. All right, here, junior samples. All right, here we go. It's 992086.
We got it?
Yes, ma'am. Right over here. Door prize. Charlie, stand up, man. Take your prize.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, each of the contestants, for taking time out of your days. I know that you all have a busy schedule, so thank you all so much for being here. And a major thank you to our MC for the night, Mr. Jason McCoy, everybody.